What's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewater's finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, and welcome to today's finest for January 31st, 2018, fueled as always by Nerd Teas. Today's blend, watermelon oolong, probably my second favorite blend that Nerd Teas makes. On today's episode, hey, we can still talk about wrestling events that happened 4 days ago like they just happened last night, right? I did kind of make you guys the commitment that I was going to talk about the Royal Rumble as well as NXT. I had kind of hoped to have made a video before now, but unfortunately wasn't able to with work scheduling. But hey, we're still going to talk about the Royal Rumble. We're still going to talk about NXT. I have opinions. I still want you to hear them. And I've got a really interesting hook for the next episode, which you're going to have to watch until the end of this one to find out. But before we get going, as always, we do our civic duty. Let's see that sub count. So, NXT TakeOver Philadelphia, it happened on Saturday. I thought it was a really, really good event, but just right off the bat, Samoa Joe on pre-show commentary, A+ for Samoa Joe on that pre-show. That smooth delivery, he's got a great voice, obviously knows his stuff. When his wrestling career is done, Samoa Joe is going to make a hell of a color commentator for somebody. If Vince is smart, or if whoever's running WWE at the time is smart, it'll be for WWE. So NXT's kind of kicking along. You had the tag title match. Thought it was a pretty good match. We get to the Velveteen Dream versus Cassius Ohno. And the Velveteen Dream, boy, if you've never seen them before, which I hadn't, wow. The Velveteen Dream is what happens when an internet trolls create a wrestler becomes self-aware. And yet, he's over with the crowd. He got the win in a fairly decent match. But, man, I got to tell you, from where Chris Hero, Cassius Ohno has come from to where they are now, I'd be pretty okay never seeing Cassius Ohno wrestle another match. Full disclosure, in discussing NXT, I don't watch it as much as I should, but probably my two favorites on NXT right now are Ember Moon and Aleister Black, and they both had really excellent matches. Ember Moon defends the NXT Women's Championship by defeating Shayna Baszler in a title match, and then Aleister Black taking on Adam Cole, Bebe, in an Extreme Rules match, and that was a really vicious but really good match. Aleister Black picking up the win there. Aleister Black is going to be a star. I'm putting it right out there right now. Aleister Black is going to be a star in WWE. That guy is incredible. And then there was the main event. Johnny Gargano versus Andrade Cien Almas. I hope you had more than a few cups of tea for that one. Look, I like the whole near fall after near fall indie style, that flow of a match. I like it when it's done well. Almas and Johnny Gargano did not do that well. Look, I've been watching wrestling for a long time, but clearly there's a disconnect between what I think is good wrestling and what especially the hardcores think is good wrestling, but just sort of your average indie fan. There's a pretty big disconnect between what the two of us think are good wrestling and good wrestling matches, because everyone is talking about this match like it's the greatest thing they've ever seen. It's the greatest match in NXT history. It's this, and it's that. This wasn't even necessarily the best match on this card for me. When it comes to wrestling, ultimately, I just want to have fun. I want to have fun with what I'm watching. And this match, to me, was absolutely no fun at all. At certain points, I felt like I was watching a snuff film rather than watching a wrestling match. It was too much of everything. And at some point, it just completely took me out of the match. I realized I was having no fun with this match at all, even though there's stuff in the match to absolutely love. And I felt like it's such a squandering of all the great things that they did do in the match. But I was having no fun with it. And worst of all, I didn't care about either person in the match. I didn't care about the heel, but I didn't care about the babyface either. And so ultimately that match just completely lost me. You slice 10 minutes off that match, it is a 5-star classic as far as I'm concerned, but It was honestly like it was just way too much. And now NXT is kind of in this situation where, from a title match perspective, they're going to have to follow up a shooting with a stabbing, because that you cannot top that in terms of just all the over-the-topness of all the near falls that they had. So it kind of paints NXT into a corner, which is unfortunate. Ultimately, I thought TakeOver was a pretty good show. It was a nice appetizer for what was coming the next night, which is the 2018 WWE Royal Rumble. And the Royal Rumble, for me, is right here. The Royal Rumble always brings me back as a wrestling fan, because I love the Royal Rumble match. And I love that this is really the night that sets up all the implications on the road to WrestleMania. Basically what we're going to be treated to for the next 70 days after the Royal Rumble itself. So I always love the Royal Rumble. I always come back for it. Other than the finish kind of being a little bit botched between AJ, Owens, and Zayn, I really liked that match. I liked everybody in it. And I've always had kind of a soft spot for the Usos, so I was happy to see the Usos win, retain the titles. I've always liked the Usos, so the fact that they went over, got the win, good by me. The Raw Tag Team title match, I don't watch enough anymore to know exactly why Jason Jordan is the most hated person in the company, but it really seems like Jason Jordan's the most hated person in the company. When did that guy get nuclear heat, and what did he do to get it? Why does everyone hate that kid? Sheamus and Cesaro go over. They're now 4-time tag team champions, despite the fact that like a year and a half ago, just a little bit over a year ago, they were trying to kill each other, which honestly, it's great. I like both of those guys. I really like Cesaro, but I like Sheamus too. And I'm glad that they have something meaningful to do on television and in marquee events like this, rather than just being kind of middling singles title guys who can have a good feud with each other, but ultimately when it comes time to decide like who's going to be the next champion, they're like kind of fringe guys who like, oh man, I hope Cesaro wins, and there's no way that he's going to. So I'm glad that the two of them have something really interesting to do. The fans love it. They're producing great matches, so I couldn't be happier for those guys doing something great on television right now. And the last thing that I'll mention before we get to the main events, the Royal Rumble matches, is the triple threat match for the Universal title, Lesnar, Strowman, and Kane. And I can best describe that match like this. 1-star match with 5-star commentary and absolutely immeasurable off-the-charts entertainment. That match was big and dumb and glorious and stupid and everything that I wanted that match to be. Braun Strowman is ridiculous. Kane still has it in him to go. Brock is still Brock. And that was just everything that I wanted that match to be, is exactly what it was. I can't wait for the one-on-one. I mean, I need that one-on-one. I need that one-on-one of Brock Lesnar and Braun Strowman at WrestleMania for the title. I need that in my bones. I need it to be no holds barred. I need it to be falls count anywhere. I need it to be something ridiculous and crazy. That's what I need, and that's what I hope I get, because you saw glimpses of it in this match, and it was just so big and glorious. Terrible match. Would have been an absolute stinker if it wasn't so gloriously entertaining and ridiculous. So I'm glad they did what they needed to do. You don't want to see hammerlocks in a match like this. No, I want to see somebody get slammed through a table after they threw another guy through a table, and table action. Like, that's what this match had to be, and it was stupid, and it was quick, and it was great, and I loved it. Okay, let's talk about the Men's Royal Rumble, and this goes right back to what I said right off the top. I love the Royal Rumble match itself. It will always bring me back, because you have all these fun little moments that take place in a Rumble match that just ratchet up the entertainment value of that match. Cena comes into the ring and everybody stops what they're doing and they all attack Cena at the same time, and the crowd pops because they are doing that cute little smart mark thing of we don't like Cena. So I mean, it's just like stuff like that, and there's 1,000,001 little moments in a Royal Rumble match because there's so many people in it that's just like, okay, this is entertaining. I'm having so much fun with this. And it goes right back to it. I just need wrestling to be fun. The Royal Rumble match is so much fun. But also, apparently, you can just attack somebody who's in the Royal Rumble if you're not in the Royal Rumble, and I guess you can take their spot. Sami Zayn has unlocked the code. The Rumble also gives you the opportunity to spotlight the surprising people, the surprising amount of people, I guess I should say, who are actually over in WWE right now. Rusev is incredibly over with the crowd. Adam Cole showing up from NXT, making his main roster debut in the Royal Rumble. I mean, he won't stay there, obviously, because, Cien Almas did as well. So he won't stay up there. But that moment of that shock the system when his theme music starts, and you're like, oh man, it's Adam Cole. And everybody in the crowd does the Adam Cole, baby, because nobody was expecting it. Also, and I'm going to put this on film, so it's, it's here for all time. I want to walk with Elias. Honestly, for big portions of this match, I thought Finn Balor was going to win it. I thought he was doing that Rey Mysterio thing where he's going to be in there for over an hour, and ultimately he's going to win it from like the number 2 position or whatever it was. Now, it's kind of funny. Ironically, Rey Mysterio comes back in this match, which was an incredible moment between him and the Hurricane, were like the 2 big pop moments of like, oh my God, cool, it's the Hurricane. And then, oh my God, Rey Mysterio's back, and he looks like he hasn't aged in 10 years. That's incredible. Look what great shape he's in, and he can clearly still go. It's nice to me that Rey Mysterio's career didn't completely fall off the rails after that really unfortunate incident in Mexico where the performer that he was with died in the ring with some freak accident like that. Also could have, totally destroyed Rey Mysterio's career. So, unfortunate incident that it was. I'm kind of glad it didn't wreck Rey Mysterio's career. But yeah, for big parts of that match, I definitely thought Finn Balor was going to win it. And I was like, oh my God, they're going to set up Finn Balor versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, and what an incredible concept that is. Like, literal David versus Goliath. That said, I loved the fact that Shinsuke Nakamura won the Royal Rumble. Why? Because I would not have called that before the match. And that is the real key to the Royal Rumble. Give me a winner that I couldn't have predicted at the beginning of the match. Now, you don't always have to do that, as we'll see when we talk about the Women's Royal Rumble. It doesn't always, I guess, have to be an unpredictable winner. You can do predictable if it's done really well, and that's what sort of they did in the women's match. But this was not overly predictable for me. I had my 2 or 3 horses that I kind of thought were going to win the thing. A+ in the Men's Royal Rumble. And then we go on the women's side of things, and the thing that really made this match for me with the Women's Royal Rumble was all the returns. There's so many of them, I have to actually refer to my notes and stare at them so I don't forget anybody. Lita, Molly Holly comes back. Michelle McCool, who actually had 5 eliminations in that match. They gave her 5 eliminations in the Women's Royal Rumble, and she looked great. Jacqueline, Beth Phoenix coming back. Both of the Bellas coming back, which, Nikki got a nice little pop. Brie got a big pop, because I think that would certainly be the less expected of the 2. And then, of course, Trish Stratus, every 30-year-old man's wet dream from when they were 14 and 15 as young wrestling fans. Trish Stratus coming back looks great. Had a really good Rumble. She wasn't in for a huge amount of time, but it was awesome to see her in there and see her go again. Asuka is a national treasure. My favorite thing about Asuka's character is that she's like 25% internet troll. You know what I mean? She lines up with somebody else one-on-one, like she lined up with Ember Moon, who showed up in the Rumble match, and her arm, of course, was really jacked up from the Shayna Baszler match, so it was all wrapped up, but she was still out there taking her shot in the Women's Rumble. So she lines up one-on-one with Asuka, and Asuka's just like, look at your stupid arm, idiot. Like, it's just like, she's just an internet troll, but she's an entertaining internet troll. And every time she does something like that, I'm just like, I love her. Again, kind of contradicting what I said a little bit earlier, the winner of this Royal Rumble was incredibly predictable. Everybody could have predicted that it was going to be Asuka, but it was still done in an intriguing way. And you had that moment of, Nikki eliminating Brie, like sisters turning on each other, and then Asuka wins the match, and it was done well enough, at the very least, well enough that I wasn't like, that was kind of predictable. Like, I kind of knew Asuka was going to win, but I don't care. Like, it was done really well. I had so much fun with that match. The Royal Rumble event as a whole, it gave me basically everything I wanted, including Ronda, Motha-you-know-what, Rousey. Ronda Rousey makes her, I guess, WWE re-debut, because technically, I guess she debuted at WrestleMania, whatever WrestleMania that was. And I am so on board with Ronda Rousey in the WWE. I'm so crazy on board with it. If she's dedicated to this and she wants this, it's no different than Shayna Baszler. Now look, Ronda Rousey has obviously a much bigger name than Shayna Baszler does, so everything that she does is going to be criticized and looked at that much more in depth. So, and there's a lot more people that are just like, oh, of course, she lost a couple of fights, so she couldn't handle it in MMA anymore. The same thing they said about Brock. The exact same things they said about Brock. People on the internet just like to criticize, which is kind of part of our hook for when we're talking about our next episode. So we're going to move away from professional wrestling for a second, but we're going to stick with Vince McMahon. What the hell is Vince McMahon thinking bringing the XFL back? Look, no matter what you think of the XFL, or the WWE, or pro football, right now anyway, or the NFL, or Colin Kaepernick, or any of that stuff, let me give you a few pieces of free advice. Number one, don't go into this whole XFL thing expecting that the XFL is going to be exactly the same as it was the first time around. That is flat out impossible. The XFL was a product of its time, both in professional wrestling, late end stage attitude era in pro wrestling, and just of society and of culture. You had the turn of the millennium and everything was, everything turned up to 11 and da-da-da-da. And it was a product of its own kind of little moment in time. Number two, don't go into this whole XFL thing expecting that the XFL is going to be any kind of competition for the National Football League. It's not. If I were Vince McMahon, first of all, he wouldn't have nearly as much money, but if I were Vince McMahon, I would be marketing the XFL to the NFL. I would market the XFL as an intermediary for good but not great college football players who might not be good enough for the NFL right now, but with a couple more years of seasoning could sneak onto an NFL roster. Also, I think Vince and the XFL would be incredibly smart to have working relationships both with the NFL as a whole and for specific XFL teams to have working relationships with specific NFL teams. Because if you don't have a working relationship with the NFL, I'm sorry, the NFL is going to bleed Vince's pockets dry long before the opposite happens. I will totally be giving the XFL a chance, and apparently so will 83% of you based off of the responses to the Twitter poll I threw up the other day, which literally just said, will you give the XFL a chance? 83% of you said yes. All right, folks, this episode was very Vince McMahon centric, but I felt like I still had to talk about these things, even though it's kind of old news. That's going to do it, basically, for this episode. Look for the next episode, probably either on Friday or Saturday, just ahead of Super Bowl 52. And speaking of Super Bowl 52, folks, you're not going to have much of a better opportunity than right now to give Nerd Teas a shot. Go watch my Super Bowl 52 video. It's on my channel from a few videos ago. I'm giving you the opportunity. I'm laying it at your feet. The opportunity to win a $10 credit towards your first or next or whatever purchase from Nerd Teas. You can also use my promo code BWFinest, save 15%, so I'm giving you 15% off plus a free $10. There is nothing more that I can do for you to let you know and let you in on how amazing Nerd Teas and their products are. All the instruction for how you can potentially win that free $10 credit, it's on my Super Bowl 52 video. Give it a watch. I kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier, but here's your hook for next time. And I kind of alluded to it when I was sort of talking about the internet and whatever. Your hook for next time is that the internet has made us all insane. Period. Look forward to that as Justin gets a little ranty. Anyways, that's going to do it for this episode. Again, we talked a lot of Vince, a lot of wrestling. What were your impressions of the Royal Rumble, the Raw after Rumble, NXT if you watched it? What are your thoughts on the XFL? Do you think that's going to be good for football, bad for football? Will you personally be giving the XFL a chance? That's it for me, Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, fueled, as always, by Nerd Teas. That's been today's finest. We'll see you next time.